What if I revealed that behind locked doors right now, a discussion concerning you has already unfolded? A talk you were never intended to witness, an exchange that might disclose far more regarding your bond than extended periods of face-to-face dialogue ever managed. Most individuals suppose that the major turning points in existence occurred directly before them. Yet the fact remains that occurrences altering our path frequently originate secretly amid silent spaces, concealed ideas, and intimate considerations. Right at this moment, there might exist a person unable to cease pondering you. Someone who has arrived at a stage where your influence has turned utterly impossible to overlook. Your identity, your vibe, and the effect you produced in their existence could have turned into the focus of earnest thought. Inquiries have surfaced, emotions have undergone review, realities once concealed could have at last emerged into view. But here comes the unexpected element. The content shared might not align with your assumptions. The exchange could have uncovered anxieties, aspirations, passions, and insights that even they hadn't entirely recognized earlier. Occasionally, the most intense findings don't focus on the other individual. They center on our own beings and the profound manner someone has influenced us. Therefore, remain engaged with me through the conclusion, because what comes next could entirely reshape your perception of this bond and the invisible dynamics operating in the background. There exist instances in existence when crucial happenings occur distant from our vision, outside our knowledge, and nevertheless their impacts commence advancing in our direction long prior to our comprehension of events. Human individuals commonly assume that solely apparent deeds form their fate, but numerous occurrences impacting our paths originate through confidential dialogues, quiet ponderings, and unseen resolutions. The concept that your soulmate engaged in a confidential session about you indicates one of these invisible instances. It implies that in an area you could not access, during a dialogue you could not perceive, your name attained sufficient importance for examination. What renders this scenario so intriguing involves not the session itself, but its psychological significance. Individuals do not concentrate their reflections upon someone unless that someone has started claiming a substantial position inside their personal realm. When a person keeps emerging in another's awareness, they transcend a mere transient notion. They transform into an icon, an inquiry, or potentially a resolution to something more profound. This describes the common beginning of significant bonds. Well in advance of open verbal sharing, an unseen procedure activates under the surface. A confidential session about you might not consistently indicate an official assembly. At times it appears as dialogue among dependable companions, relatives, or individuals whose judgments hold value. In other cases, it represents a session happening fully within the thoughts. One segment of a person balances rationality, as another communicates via feeling. One perspective directs toward prudence while another propels advancement. Human individuals are seldom as uncomplicated as they seem. Within each person resides an internal exchange among assorted longings, concerns, dreams, and anticipations. When someone harbors intense sentiment regarding another person, these internal perspectives intensify in activity. What stands out is that such exchanges frequently develop when a person finds it impossible to disregard the influence someone has exerted upon their existence. Your influence might have produced inquiries requiring resolution. Why does this individual persist in my awareness? Why do I experience alteration when reflecting upon them? Why does their absence register so prominently? These inquiries do not arise from routine meetings. They surface when a bond commences engaging something beyond everyday interaction. Numerous individuals presume that appeal concerns exclusively sentiments. Nevertheless, deeper bonds activate something considerably more meaningful. They question previous convictions, uncover concealed longings, and bring forth concerns that have stayed buried across years. When this occurs, a person instinctively pursues clarity. They seek direction, viewpoint, and comprehension. This frequently accounts for why confidential dialogues happen. The person endeavors to interpret an occurrence exceeding what rationality by itself can clarify. In numerous situations, the exchange centers not upon your exterior identity, but upon what you symbolize. Every significant relationship operates like a reflection. Through another individual, we commence noticing facets of ourselves that remained concealed previously. Your soulmate could be uncovering characteristics within themselves merely due to their reflections upon you. They could be identifying capabilities they had forgotten possessing, susceptibilities they attempted to mask, or ambitions they set aside long ago. The exchange shifts from amassing details toward comprehending change. The most unexpected element of a confidential session frequently involves its authenticity. Public dialogues frequently get formed by appearance and anticipation. Confidential exchanges, on the other hand, tend to disclose what individuals truly believe and experience. Behind locked doors, disguises become less essential. The realities surfacing during these instants are often the realities holding the greatest importance. A person might at last acknowledge sentiments they have rejected, concerns they have concealed, or dreams they have feared voicing. What renders such an instant meaningful is that it denotes a shift. Something that existed solely as a vague sensation commences acquiring form. Doubt commences transforming into recognition. Ideas grow sharper. Emotions grow more difficult to set aside whether or not the person grasps it. The mere process of examining you demonstrates that your influence has progressed beyond the commonplace and entered a realm of profound significance within their mental universe. There arrives a stage in every significant bond when influence surpasses separation, surpasses quiet, and occasionally even surpasses straightforward dialogue. This represents the instant when your vibe turns impossible to disregard. It is not concerning physical looks, ongoing dialogues, or intense gestures. It concerns the unseen impact one person commences exerting upon another person's internal realm. Well before substantial occurrences develop, there frequently exists a gentle alteration in perception. A person commences realizing that someone persists occupying their ideas, re-emerging in awareness unexpectedly and producing an impression that declines to disappear. Human individuals experience profound effects from vibe, even if they seldom articulate it using those terms. Every meeting conveys more than language. It conveys sentiments, intentions, perspectives, and mental impressions. Most meetings produce solely brief effects. They appear momentarily and vanish equally rapidly. Yet specific individuals generate a distinct outcome. Their influence endures. Their recollection stays lively. Their impact continues functioning beneath awareness long after the meeting concludes. This marks when vibe commences becoming impossible to disregard. What renders this occurrence potent is that it frequently happens absent intentional effort. The most enduring impressions are seldom compelled. They arise organically when someone displays an authentic version of themselves. Authenticity produces a distinctive mental effect because it distinguishes itself in a realm where numerous individuals conceal behind standards, societal functions, and deliberately built personas. When someone encounters true assurance, truthfulness, profundity, or emotional sincerity, they experience something challenging to describe yet impossible to miss. Your soulmate might discover themselves reflecting upon you amid unforeseen moments. Perhaps they are engaged with routine duties centered upon employment, relatives, or individual objectives, and abruptly your image appears in their awareness unbidden. They might encounter an expression recalling you, arrive at a location triggering recollection, or undergo a sentiment somehow linking back to your influence. These moments frequently appear coincidental on the surface, but psychologically they disclose something essential. The awareness naturally revisits what it deems significant. Individuals tend to suppose they direct every idea they possess, yet substantial portions of the awareness function beneath conscious knowledge. Strong impressions continue affecting conduct even when focus directs elsewhere. This explains why significant bonds can feel so enduring. The person might endeavor to concentrate on everyday concerns, but portions of their focus persistently return to the individual who has seized their curiosity, not because they select it deliberately each occasion, but because something internal acknowledges importance. An additional reason your vibe becomes challenging to disregard is that it might revive characteristics they have not encountered for some time. Certain individuals recall us to overlooked elements of ourselves. One person might revive optimism. Another might spark bravery. Someone else might promote emotional sincerity. These encounters build potent mental connections. Rather than merely recalling the individual, the person commences recalling the sensations experienced in that individual's presence. The sentimental effect attaches to the recollection. This procedure can confuse because it defies typical explanations. A person might question why ideas of you continue surfacing. They might attempt logical examination, seeking clear causes behind their expanding recognition. Yet certain encounters resist straightforward examination. The sentiment and awareness do not invariably adhere to expected patterns. Occasionally, a bond develops silently, accumulating power under the surface before attaining full visibility. As your impact expands, individuals surrounding them might commence detecting minor alterations also. Their disposition might change when your name receives mention. Their focus might intensify when dialogues involve subjects linked to you. They might seem preoccupied, contemplative, or exceptionally engaged whenever ideas about you emerge. Even if they strive to stay impartial, the vibe of a significant bond frequently discovers indirect methods of expression. The more profound reason your vibe becomes impossible to disregard is that it no longer functions as an external occurrence. It has integrated into their internal existence. Your influence exists not exclusively in recollections but in anticipations, contemplations, dreams, and inquiries regarding tomorrow. The awareness attends to what it considers valuable. And when someone repeatedly revisits the identical person through idea, sentiment, and imagination, it demonstrates that the bond has progressed beyond casual curiosity and entered a position of authentic mental significance. Inquiries regarding tomorrow seldom surface absent cause. They arise when something in the present commences, seeming significant enough to merit profound consideration. When your soulmate commences posing inquiries regarding tomorrow, it indicates that your bond has progressed beyond momentary interest and entered a realm where options undergo exploration. Human individuals do not naturally devote mental and sentimental power to envisioning tomorrow results unless they believe something or someone possesses potential to fulfill a key function in their existence. Tomorrow exists as a mental terrain filled with doubt. No one perceives it clearly, yet everyone endeavors to construct images of what might arrive. These envisioned tomorrows get shaped by dreams, concerns, longings, and personal encounters. When another person commences claiming that terrain, it reveals a modification in viewpoint. Rather than perceiving existence as a solo journey, the awareness commences experimenting with concepts of joint encounters, joint objectives, and joint sentimental paths. Your soulmate might discover themselves pondering the direction of this bond, even if they cannot yet clarify why. Initially, these inquiries might appear faintly. They might reflect upon how varied circumstances would feel with you present. They might envision upcoming dialogues, upcoming chances for connection, or upcoming instants that have not yet occurred. These ideas frequently arrive silently without signal, but they carry essential meaning because they demonstrate that your influence has become incorporated into their image of what awaits. One of the reasons tomorrow-directed thinking becomes so potent is that it compels a person to face what they genuinely prize. In routine existence, many selections occur automatically. People pursue habits, responsibilities, and familiar patterns. However, when they commence envisioning a tomorrow involving another person, deeper priorities sharpen into focus. Inquiries surface regarding harmony, sentimental satisfaction, reliance, development, and enduring contentment. The person commences examining not solely the bond itself but also the variety of existence they desire to construct. This procedure frequently activates reflection upon former encounters as well. Human individuals naturally contrast potential tomorrows with previous results. If someone has undergone letdown, sorrow, or unfulfilled anticipations in the past, they might approach fresh options with caution. Simultaneously, significant bonds possess a method of questioning former judgments. A person who previously considered certain ambitions unrealistic might commence re-evaluating them. Someone who had grown sentimentally guarded might start envisioning what renewed sincerity might resemble. The inquiries that surface are not invariably straightforward. They frequently involve you, doubt, and conflict. One portion of the awareness might feel thrilled by option, while another portion stays wary, One perspective promotes advancement while another seeks assurance. This internal exchange constitutes a natural component of any significant bond because tomorrow invariably contains risk. To value someone means to recognize that their influence counts, and once someone counts, the results become sentimentally meaningful. As ideas regarding tomorrow keep evolving, the bond commences affecting selections in subtle manners. Priorities might alter. Certain chances might seem more vital than they previously did. The person might become more conscious of their own sentimental requirements, individual objectives, and enduring ambitions. Rather than considering solely immediate conditions, they commence contemplating broader inquiries about direction, purpose, and partnership. What renders these tomorrow-directed reflections particularly meaningful is that they disclose commitment. The awareness directs its power toward what it considers valuable. When someone repeatedly revisits ideas about where a bond might proceed, they are assigning that bond a position within their mental tomorrow. They are no longer perceiving it as confined to the current instant. Instead, it becomes part of an evolving narrative whose subsequent sections remain unwritten, yet already sufficiently vital to seize focus, sentiment, and imagination. Surprising realities frequently surface when sentiments intensify excessively to stay concealed. For an extended duration, individuals can evade certain facts about themselves, their sentiments, or the influence another person has produced upon their existence. They occupy themselves with responsibilities, logical accounts, and routine habits. Yet beneath the surface, the unaware awareness keeps accumulating evidence. Sentiments expand silently. Notices accumulate and understandings develop in locations beyond immediate knowledge. Eventually an instant arrives when what remained concealed can no longer remain hidden. This marks when surprising realities commence disclosing themselves. In the setting of your soulmate's confidential session, these disclosures are not necessarily intense admissions voiced openly for all to perceive. More commonly, they appear as understandings that astonish even the individual undergoing them. An idea that was once doubtful suddenly clarifies. A sentiment that appeared transient discloses itself as enduring. A sentimental bond that was previously undervalued commences displaying its authentic profundity. The astonishment arrives not because the reality was missing earlier, but because it stayed unrecognized. Human individuals possess remarkable skill at concealing matters from themselves. Individuals often believe they fully comprehend their sentiments, yet substantial portions of their internal realm function outside conscious knowledge. Sentiments can exist long before full acknowledgement. A person might persuade themselves that someone represents merely transient interest, only to discover afterward that the bond has claimed a considerably larger position within their core. They might convince themselves they remain unaffected while their ideas repeatedly return to the identical individual. These conflicts disclose the distance that can exist between what individuals suppose they experience and what they actually experience. During confidential exchanges, whether with dependable individuals or through profound personal reflection, these concealed realities frequently rise to the surface. Inquiries that were evaded finally receive confrontation. Sentiments that were downplayed receive honest examination. The person commences looking past surfaces and poses difficult yet essential inquiries. Why does this individual continue claiming my ideas? Why do their expressions linger with me? Why do I experience a feeling of significance whenever I reflect upon them? Such inquiries possess the power to reveal realities that stayed formerly concealed behind diversion or refusal. One of the most unexpected discoveries might concern acknowledging the sentimental impact another person has generated. Many individuals underestimate how profoundly they have been influenced until they pause for reflection. They suddenly grasp that their disposition alters when considering someone. Specific recollections carry unusual sentimental weight. Tomorrow possibilities commence incorporating that person's influence nearly automatically. What once appeared minor discloses itself as meaningful. Surprising realities also surface when individuals recognize characteristics they respect but had not consciously noted. Occasionally a person feels drawn toward another because they represent features that deeply echo their own mental requirements. Strength, gentleness, genuineness, insight, assurance, or emotional profundity might generate a potent impression. Yet these characteristics are not invariably identified immediately. Only through reflection does the person comprehend why the bond feels distinct from others they have known. Another disclosure might concern anxiety. While individuals frequently concentrate upon appeal and fondness, significant bonds regularly expose susceptibilities also. A person might grasp they fear missing an opportunity before its full development. They might discover worries regarding refusal, doubt, or emotional openness. These anxieties themselves become proof of importance because individuals seldom fear losing what they do not prize. The existence of worry often reveals the existence of authentic sentimental commitment. As these realities sharpen into focus, former assumptions commence dissolving. Narratives that once seemed convincing no longer maintain identical power. The person becomes more truthful with themselves regarding what they experience, what they aspire toward, and what they cannot overlook. The procedure is often transformative because it substitutes confusion with clarity. Concealed sentiments attain recognition. Unvoiced realities attain definition. What once stayed buried beneath the surface rises into awareness, carrying with it a more profound comprehension of the bond and the function it has attained within their internal realm. Human individuals seldom exist separately. Even when personal sentiments remain private, the impacts of those sentiments frequently become apparent to surrounding individuals. This explains why others occasionally detect alterations before the person fully comprehends them. When individuals near your soulmate commence detecting your impact, it suggests that the bond has strengthened sufficiently to affect conduct, sentiments, and thought patterns in manners observable externally. What might have originated as an internal occurrence gradually produces marks in the external realm. Every significant bond generates a mental wave effect. Ideas influence sentiments, sentiments influence conduct, and conduct influences the manner a person engages with others. Relatives, companions, and dependable associates often become attuned to these alterations because they are acquainted with the person's typical habits and perspectives. They identify subtle differences that strangers could miss. A minor disposition change, a fresh feeling of excitement, instances of preoccupation, or an unusual degree of contemplation can all indicate that something essential is occurring beneath the surface. Your soulmate might not openly examine every sentiment they possess, but sentiments possess a method of disclosing themselves indirectly. A person's vibe alters when they become sentimentally committed to someone. They might smile unexpectedly when a specific subject arises. They might appear more contemplative than typical. Their focus might wander toward recollections, possibilities, or dialogues connected to the person occupying their ideas. Those surrounding them frequently detect these minor alterations and commence forming their own interpretations regarding potential developments. One reason others perceive your impact is because significant bonds tend to modify viewpoint. When someone encounters a person who genuinely counts to them, they frequently commence perceiving existence differently. Their priorities might alter, certain objectives might feel more vital, some concerns might diminish in intensity, while fresh dreams emerge. These internal modifications naturally impact the way they communicate, form selections, and interact with the realm. Companions and relatives who witness these developments might sense that a fresh influence has entered the person's existence. Individuals are particularly attentive when sentimental patterns change. If someone typically reserved becomes more expressive, others notice. If someone frequently appearing indifferent suddenly displays zeal, curiosity, or emotional profundity, inquiries arise. Human individuals instinctively search for explanations behind significant conduct alterations. Consequently, those closest to your soulmate might become conscious that someone has seized their attention well before any official recognition occurs. Another essential aspect of this procedure is that significant bonds frequently promote personal development. When an individual feels inspired by another person, they might commence cultivating characteristics that had stayed inactive. They could become more assured, more receptive, more hopeful, or more prepared to face personal difficulties. These positive modifications seldom escape detection. The individuals surrounding them observe the transformation and naturally wonder what or who has contributed to it. In many situations, others identify sentimental importance through repeated patterns. They detect how frequently your name surfaces in dialogue, how often certain subjects return, or how much engagement appears whenever something connected to you receives mention. Even efforts to stay impartial can unintentionally disclose importance. The more a person attempts to dismiss or conceal a significant bond, the more evident certain responses become to attentive observers. What renders this interaction particularly meaningful is that external observers are often less affected by personal doubt. While your soulmate might still be questioning their sentiments, companions and relatives can occasionally view the situation with greater clarity. They observe steady conducts, recurring sentimental responses, and subtle transformations that indicate a deeper reality. Through their observations, it becomes increasingly apparent that your influence has extended beyond a transient impression and has commenced shaping ideas, sentiments, and perspectives in manners visible not solely to the individual themselves but also to the people who understand them best. Every significant bond eventually attains a stage where reflection by itself proves insufficient. Ideas can loop endlessly, sentiments can intensify silently, and inquiries can stay unresolved for extended periods. But eventually something commences advancing toward a selection. This advancement is often invisible initially. It does not arrive with intense statements or abrupt proclamations. Instead, it develops gradually within the depths of the awareness where options get weighed, sentiments get examined, and tomorrow results get considered. When a selection is quietly forming, it signifies that the bond has entered a new mental phase. Human individuals naturally pursue certainty. The awareness feels uneasy remaining in a state of endless uncertainty. While doubt can be endured for a duration, it eventually generates strain. A person commences feeling the necessity to comprehend their position, what they genuinely experience, and what path they desire to pursue. This internal pressure intensifies when sentiments are involved because significant bonds demand attention. They refuse to stay unresolved indefinitely. Consequently, the individual gradually advances from observation toward selection. Your soulmate might have devoted substantial time examining the bond from various perspectives. They might have questioned their sentiments, assessed their encounters, and contrasted their feelings with former relationships or personal anticipations. Such reflection does not indicate weakness or bewilderment. It often indicates that the bond matters sufficiently to merit careful consideration. The deeper the importance, the more earnestly individuals tend to approach their selections. A quietly forming selection frequently commences with minor understandings rather than major conclusions. The individual detects patterns that can no longer be overlooked. They recognize how frequently ideas of you return. They become conscious of the sentimental impact your influence has generated. They acknowledge that certain sentiments have stayed consistent across time instead of disappearing. These observations accumulate like components of a puzzle. Each understanding contributes to an expanding sense of clarity. One of the most essential aspects of selection formation is the connection between sentiment and logic. Many individuals imagine that these forces function in opposition to each other, yet significant selections often emerge when both commence advancing in the same direction.